Hello and welcome to KLM Institute,
where today we'll be diving deep into a troubling question that's been circulating after two major plane crashes recently. Is the rear of the airplane really the safest place to sit? These tragic events in Kazakhstan and South Korea have sparked a discussion about the safest seat on a plane, with some survivors being rescued from the rear sections of the planes. But is it just a coincidence, or is there something to it? We'll explore the details of these crashes, the science behind seating safety, and the broader implications for air travel. First, let's take a look at the devastating events that triggered this conversation. On December 25, 2024, an Azerbaijan Airlines flight en route to Russia crashed across the Caspian Sea near Aktau, Kazakhstan, claiming 38 lives. Just days later, on December 29, 2024, another deadly crash occurred in South Korea. Jeju Air Flight 7C 2216, carrying 181 people, crashed while attempting an emergency landing at Muon International Airport. Tragically, only 2 people survived that crash, making it one of South Korea's deadliest aviation accidents in recent years. One striking similarity in both accidents is the location of the survivors. In the Kazakhstan crash, many survivors were pulled from the rear section of the plane, and in South Korea, the 2 survivors were also rescued from the plane's tail section. This has led to an intriguing question: are seats in the rear of the plane safer than those at the front or middle? Let's dive into this idea. Air travel, despite these tragic accidents, remains by far the safest mode of transportation. According to global safety data, flying is statistically much safer than traveling by car or train. For instance, air travel has a fatality rate of just 0.003 deaths per 100 million passenger miles, a stark contrast to the much higher rates of road fatalities. In fact, the fatality rate for air travel has been steadily decreasing, with 2023 seeing just 17 deaths per billion passengers. This speaks to the incredible advancements in aviation technology, safety protocols, and rigorous maintenance checks that are designed to prevent accidents. However, despite all the safety advancements, aviation incidents, especially crashes, tend to grab headlines due to their catastrophic nature. It's important to remember that fatal plane crashes are exceedingly rare. But with these recent tragedies, we now face questions that stir anxiety, such as whether some areas of the plane offer more safety than others in the event of a crash. Several studies and analyses of past accidents have been conducted to understand if the location of your seat can influence your chances of survival. According to research by Popular Mechanics, which studied crashes between 1971 and 2005, passengers seated at the rear of the aircraft generally had a higher survival rate than those seated in the front. The report suggests that the back of the plane offers a 40% higher chance of survival compared to the front seats. This is because the front of the plane tends to bear the brunt of the impact in many types of crashes, such as nosedives, crash landings, and collisions with structures or the ground. British journalist Max Foster also weighed in on this issue after the Kazakhstan crash. He referenced a study by the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board, which found that passengers seated in the rear of the plane had a significantly better survival rate. The study suggested that the chances of survival were as high as 69% for those seated at the back, compared to 49% for those in the front, and 59% for those in the middle of the plane. This seems to support the theory that sitting towards the back of the plane might increase your chances of survival in the event of an accident. There's also research from Time magazine, which examined 35 years of plane accidents. Their findings suggested that the safest seats are located in the middle of the rear section, with a mortality rate of 28%. The middle of the plane came in second place with a 44% mortality rate, while the front seats had the highest risk. However, There's an important consideration when looking at this data. While rear seats might offer a higher survival rate in certain crashes, this does not guarantee safety, as every crash scenario is unique. One important factor to consider is the proximity to emergency exits. Rear seats, especially those in the back section of the plane, may have a clear advantage in terms of evacuation time. Being closer to the rear emergency exits can make it easier and faster to evacuate, reducing the chances of injury or death in some situations. However, there are also dangers to sitting in the back. In some crashes, the tail of the plane can hit the ground first, causing severe impact and injuries. This risk is more prominent in certain types of accidents, especially those involving high-speed impacts. Now, let's take a moment to look at the broader context of aviation accidents and how they have shaped our understanding of safety. One of the deadliest crashes in recent history occurred on March 27, 1977, when two Boeing 747s collided on the runway at Tenerife Airport in the Canary Islands. A total of 583 people lost their lives in what remains the deadliest aviation accident in history. While this particular crash wasn't related to seating positions, it demonstrated the devastating impact of human error and poor communication. Another tragic event was the crash of Air India Flight 182 on June 23, 1985, when a bombing killed all 329 people on board. While terrorism wasn't a factor in recent crashes, this disaster highlighted the importance of security checks and awareness in preventing such tragedies. In more recent years, there have been notable accidents like Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, which mysteriously disappeared in 2014, and the Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 crash in 2019, which resulted in the deaths of 346 people. These events underscored the importance of aircraft technology, flight data monitoring, and rigorous safety protocols. It's worth mentioning that the two recent crashes in Kazakhstan and South Korea may not have been solely caused by the seating arrangement or location of passengers. Factors such as mechanical failure, human error, and even external factors like weather or military activity can play a role in these tragic events. For example, the Azerbaijani Airlines flight in Kazakhstan is now under investigation for a possible missile strike, which raises questions about the safety of civilian aircraft in conflict zones. Ultimately, the question of which seats are safest is a complex one, influenced by numerous variables such as the type of crash, the severity of impact, and the proximity to emergency exits. While studies suggest that the rear of the plane may offer a higher survival rate, it's important to remember that air travel remains incredibly safe overall. The chances of being involved in a crash are extremely low, and the chances of survival continue to improve with advancements in aviation technology. While there are factors that may make seats at the back of the plane safer in certain crashes, no seat can be deemed completely safe. The most important thing passengers can do is to pay attention to safety briefings, be aware of emergency exit locations, and follow any instructions from the crew in case of an emergency. Air travel, though not without its risks, remains one of the safest ways to travel. Thanks for tuning into this deep dive on aviation safety. Remember, despite these tragic events, air travel continues to be a remarkably safe mode of transportation. Stay informed and stay safe, and we'll see you next time here at KLM Institute.